Hi everybody, this is going to be a video response. It's for James, that's Rockboy680. It's for his contest for 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations, James. 1,000 subscribers is quite a big leap, and all the best to you for that and many more. I'm going to go pretty quick for this because he wants to keep it 10 minutes or under. This is a contest where he asked us to show our favorite albums for every year of a decade. We could go with, I think, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, whatever. And I could very easily have done the 60s, but I knew that if I did the 60s, every album is going to be these guys. So I figured, let me stay away from the 60s. Let me also stay away from the 70s because there'll be a lot of solo Beatles there. But I decided to do the 1980s. And when I did the 80s, it was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be because I like a lot of different albums from every year of the 80s. But I also found out that there were a couple of Beatles-related albums in there. But also somebody else actually dominates a lot of the 80s for me. And, well, let's just show you how it worked out here, okay? Start with 1980. I went with, let me fix something here. I went with Pat Benatar's Crimes of Passion, which could easily been number one for me. But in some cases I'm going to show you runner-ups, and here's the runner-up. I couldn't leave John Lennon's album Double Fantasy, John and Yoko actually together on this, my two favorite albums of 1980. Then we go to 1981, and I have Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Love Rock and Roll. Made my number one spot for 1981. I always associate this album with 1982, really, because it came out in, I think, November or so of 81, and really, I discovered it in early 82. Then we go for 1982, and I decided to pick Fleetwood Mac, Mirage. And I can see the glare on this is really rough today. Fleetwood Mac Mirage as my favorite album of 1982. And I have an honorable mention, can't leave this album out of there, Paul McCartney, Tug of War, of 1982. 1983, it's funny, 1983 I always say is one of my favorite years of music. Talking about contemporary pop music. I was out in the clubs all the time. I always tell this story. I was out dancing and partying, having a great time. I liked all the techno popular mainstream hits of that year of 83. Isn't it kind of weird then that I picked this as my favorite album of 1983? Bob Dylan, Infidels. That's kind of a surprise because it's not, you know, that mainstream pop. But I really love this album, and I thought at the time this was really kind of a comeback of sorts for Bob. But also, I love this album, giving this lady more attention. Can you tell who it is yet that I'm partial to from the 80s? Joan Jett and the Blackhearts' 1983 album called simply Album is also a favorite 1983 album of mine. 1984 was pretty easy for me. I show this album a lot when we talk about the 80s. It's Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual. A lot of good hits on this. Easily my pick for 1984. 1985, I went with the self-titled album Heart, the Wilson sisters there, and this is my favorite album, 1985. 1986 was a tough one for me, and I finally settled upon an album that I almost forgot about. I do like this album. It also came along at the end of the year. It's, again, guess who? Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Good Music from 1986. Came out late in the year, but I managed to find an album from 86. 1987, this isn't even a contest for me. Yes, it's a Beatles-related item. It's George Harrison's Cloud 9 album. And I think far and away this is easily my favorite album from 1987. Really good album from George. 1988. I went with something a little different. Again, I kind of like associate with this album a little more with '89, but it came out in 1988. It's an album by Edie Brickell and New Bohemians. It's called Shooting Rubber Bands at the Stars, and at the time I really enjoyed this album. Edie Brickell, New Bohemians, '88. Also a runner-up. Look who crops up again, Joan Jett. This here album called Up Your Alley. Up Your Alley, very good album. More commercial side, I think, for Joan. She got a couple of hits out of this. I Hate Myself for Loving You and Little Liar. Now, my favorite album that I decided to go with for 1989, I don't have it. And I really love this album. The reason I don't have it is because I used to have it on a compact disc, and I sold that a long time ago or traded it or whatever. I'm waiting to get it on vinyl. It's very hard to find vinyl because this was the period where records were going over the CDs, really. I've seen this album in the stores a few times, but it's either very expensive or not in good condition the way I want it. But I will get it eventually, and here it is. I'm going to show you the computer screen image over here. It's Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever, which is my pick for best 1989 album. Thanks for watching. Congratulations again to Rockboy680, James.